Hello, and welcome to Stories Across Borders. Here we discuss stories told across a range of different mediums books, movies, games, you name it. The only rule is that we can only discuss things in terms of the writing. Anything like art, acting, animation, etc., is off limits unless it relates directly to the way the story is being told. I'm Daniel Radford, author Jellyfish, and also your host. And today I'm joined once again by my frequent co host, John Kernan, as we embark on the third cycle of our season.
Hello. I don't have a cute metaphor or anything, but I'm a killer whale. They're neat.
Yeah, that'd be right. I picked Jellyfish, and you're like, nah, I'm gonna be a killer whale.
I just really like them. I always thought they were cool, but I really started to like them when I finally found out it's like, by the way, they're as smart as dolphins, and
They are dolphins.
despite being an apex predator who eats and kills literally everything, they explicitly pretty never ever try to harm humans because they recognize that we're as smart as them.
Yeah, I mean, technically they are dolphins, even. There you go.
Yeah, but
And sometimes they wear hats.
dolphins are freaks, so, they can stay over in their little freak corner and do their tricks.
So you may be wondering why we've just gone on a tangent about jellyfish, killer whales, and dolphins, and that is because this cycle is all about the ocean.
We like the ocean.
It's going to be an interesting one, this one, because I don't know if you know this audience, but the ocean, by which we don't mean a specific ocean, but the concept of an ocean, but the ocean is very large.
Yeah, you gotta love that the thing that is, unironically the bulk of our planet is also the most mysterious part of the planet.
I mean, that's another. We're going to get into that, don't you worry. But what I mean to say is the ocean. I mean, it's big. It's very big, and fittingly, that means there's also a lot of different stories about it. In fact, stories about the ocean have been being told for many different reasons, and for about as long as we've been aware there was an ocean.
Yeah, ever since we had the capacity to share and tell stories, and help maybe even slightly before that.
And the ocean, like in a story, can be representative of so many different things because the human relationship with the ocean is very complicated. We are dependent on it in so many ways and always have been. For it's a source of food, a method of transport, a way to cool off when it's really, really hot.
We're constantly enamored with its beauty, but also afraid of its darkness and alien nature.
Yeah, we also know nothing about it, and it frequently finds ways to kill us. So,
And and after all these years, we still can't quite actually get all the way to the deepest parts of it.
no, not even close. We've explored roughly 5% of the of the Earth's oceans.
And that's why it's so fun to think about all the things we don't know about the ocean, but also scary.
Yeah, the ocean can be a source of wonder. It can be a place of mystery. It can represent freedom and joy, and but it can also represent fear. It's in equal parts something to stay away from, but also something to protect. And our understanding of the ocean has certainly deepened and changed as humanity's own history has progressed. But that's just led us to more questions and more avenues of storytelling about it, because it always has been and always will be a vital part of the human existence and experience. And it will always be all these different things. So I thought maybe a good way to go about this would be to sort of gradually go through the various things that an ocean can be to a story, just in broad terms primarily, and then see where it takes us.
Sounds good to me.
And I thought we'd start with the happy part and end on our trademark horrible depression.
The ocean is so pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I actually hadn't put it in my list, but the ocean as like a representation of the world's beauty is very much a thing. I feel like it's weird though, because I feel like there's not much you can say about that, right? It's pretty, and therefore it can be used as a metaphor for something being pretty.
One thing I think that's nice because it applies to both its beauty, but also goes deeper down and applies to, like, everything else about the ocean, including the metaphorical parts, is, it never stops. The ocean is one part of the world that is eternally in motion, never truly still. Not even one single part of it, other than maybe
True.
the tiniest little possible pockets.
I suppose the thing as well about it being a metaphor for like and representative of symbolic of all these whatever of beauty is that choosing to compare something to the ocean specifically to talk about how like pretty it is does have a certain interesting connotation to it because of all the other things the ocean is. Because, of course, the ocean is also incredibly deep and complex, and also potentially very dangerous. So I
Yeah.
think if you describe someone as beautiful like an ocean, it has a very different connotation to describing someone or something as beautiful like a sunset.
The ocean, the only thing where you could possibly say, "It's as deep as it is deep."
Honestly. But yeah, that's definitely interesting. But my thought on starting point was actually that the ocean is generally represent can be very representative of freedom and joy, and it often is in media. It represents a world very separate from the societal rules that govern us and the usual things that bind us whilst we're on land. It's a getaway from land-based societal restrictions. So that's why you get a lot of romanticized like pirate stories and things like that, which are really just about freedom and escaping obligation and structure and all these things because that doesn't really exist in the same way out in the ocean.
True. I mean, it's a I guess it's a little bit of a no duh to say this about something that literally takes up more of the planet than the land masses do, but it really is its own entire world. Not its own entirely separate world. I don't believe there truly is any part of the world that's genuinely separate from all the others. But parts of it are completely separate and all of it is entirely unique.
I mean, yeah, like even just moving from like the Atlantic to the Pacific is surprisingly different, like ecologically. But I mean, you've touched on something there as well, right? Which is that the ocean is also a great connector. You could even call it the great connector. In as much as our ability to travel it as representative of freedom, the escape from what was binding us before, the ability to move into a greater amount of the world and seek out new things, explore new things, it is also something that connects all the different land masses. The
Yeah.
ocean is very much something that can bring people together weirdly, as vast and as complex as it is, because two people can be miles away and still share that same ocean. And that ocean can then serve as a way for those two people who are miles away to connect to each other. In a setting where you don't have planes, it can serve a similar role to the sky.
That's actually one of the reasons that, especially since I started to get older and connect with people from further away, why I've actually always really appreciated the phrase I've used here before, "across the pond." 'Cause, like, haha, simple nickname, almost a euphemism, calling the ocean the pond. But the phrase itself feels to me so much more familiar and warm and comfortable than that because it's, when it comes to like friends, people far away, that's essential. The ocean is practically the same thing as if there was just a little pond between you and your neighbor's house. It's that body of water right there that both separates and connects us at the same time.
I mean, the words you choose to describe something can carry very specific connotations. That's something we've talked about a lot on this show. And the phrase across the pond, it's very casual, it's light, it obfuscates a lot of the dangers of sea travel. It has a neighborly, comfortable vibe. It's homely. It's like saying, my mate down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of saying, oh, my friend who lives across the churning blue abyss that could kill me at any moment.
The depths of which we have yet to plumb or even understand.
This source of eldritch horror lies between me and my buddy.
We can't.
Carries very different vibes,
We have yet to prove that Cthulhu is not in fact down there.
honestly. But, that's the thing though, like, the words you choose and the tone you choose, the way you frame something can conjure a completely different vibe, and weirdly enough, the same things that you can frame as terrifying can also be framed as interesting and fascinating and something wondrous to explore. It's very easy to, depending on the words you choose and the tone of your story, frame the how unknown the ocean is as fascinating and wondrous. And that is actually one of the things I wanted to touch on, because one of the biggest things that the ocean can be a source of in a story is a mystery. I said it earlier, it's a consistent and integral part of human existence. And our understanding is always growing. But even now in the 21st century, when we're recording this, obviously, we've only explored like 5% of the oceans because the ocean is so vast and so devoid of light, and the pressure is so immense that the deeper you get, the harder it is to explore. And in a lot of ways, it's easier for us to explore space. And because of that, because we know so little about it, it is inherently mysterious.
Yeah, an environment in which we have no place, no power.
Yeah. And that, to me, is one of the coolest things about it narratively, is that in the same way as a story about space in a lot of ways, it is this bizarre, alien, hostile environment that we know nothing about, and therefore just about anything can be true about it, at least in the realms of fiction. You can write stories about like strange, bizarre creatures and lost artifacts and whole civilizations that we've just never come into contact with. And because it's underwater in the depths of the ocean, it doesn't feel unbelievable regardless of how fantastical it is. It feels interesting.
Yeah, like it's such an open avenue for exploring mysteries, or I guess if I want to be as blunt as possible, it's the perfect environment to make shit up because how are you going to disbelieve something that we have no disproof of, that we have no actual evidence against other than our basic logic and understanding of the rest of the world, which doesn't have to apply to that entirely alien place at all. Who needs suspension of disbelief when the disbelief can't survive the water pressure to get down to where we're talking about?
And that mystery can, again, it can lead you down so many avenues depending how you want to frame it. It can be a you can take it to the source, that like the direction of wonder, of look at this strange, bizarre world, this mysterious place that is just barely out of our reach, that can be anything. Look at these beautiful, radiant, literally radiant creatures that exist down here. Or it can be, I'm sorry, did that thing have two sets of jaws that just popped out of its mouth? And why is its head see through?
I'm sorry, did that shark just extend a little xenomorph like a xenomorph mouth out to stretch out, grab a fish, and then pull it in and swallow it?
Oh, I'm sorry, that thing is like the size of my boat and has a beak and tentacles. What the hell?
Oh, that little guy with transparent, little crystalline looking teeth fishes in the dark for other creatures.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is that it's really not surprising that we view the ocean as this bizarre alien world. Because, I mean, not only do we just know how deep and unknown it is, but also every now and then it just spits something out onto the beaches and we have no clue what it is.
Yeah, that's how Bloodborne happened.
How often do you hear a story about like some creature that no one can identify is just washed up on a beach somewhere? and marine biologists all over the world lose their shit because it's another cool new thing to investigate.
Yeah. Sorry, in the real world, aliens don't come from space. They come from the ocean.
Just saying, whole really good book about that. Go read The Swarm.
The Swarm, also a lot of them. I heard about one recently that is genuinely just like a scary, "Oh no, weird stuff is happening," like, expedition into the deep ocean, and then only literally right at the end are they like, "Oh, wait, hold on, these horrible creatures that have been trying to eat everybody are, actually essentially just fleas on an exponentially bigger creature. Oh god, that sounds like Cthulhu. Did we wake up Cthulhu?"
Maybe. That's a good a segue as any, I guess. Because let's be honest, the ocean is fucking terrifying.
The ocean is so scary. That's why Subnautica feels like a horror game despite being so pretty and not really having combat in it.
And not being a horror game.
Yeah, it's literally not, but, it's very few people can play that game without getting scared anyways.
Yeah, because I mean, it stands to say we've said a lot of times that the less you know about something, the scarier it is. And so naturally, the ocean, which we know jack shit about, is a fantastic source of horror and terror. The unknown is scary. And depending on how you frame it, oh, I wonder what's down there, can very quickly become, oh God, what's down there?
Oh, what is that?
Societies of man-eating fish people, eldritch entities, hive minds of microorganisms that want us dead. The ocean could contain anything, and that means it can contain anything that can kill us in all kinds of horrible ways.
One of my favorite ones I ever saw was actually a very Futurama-esque joke of, like, dude in a submarine type thing and is looking at everything through the window. It's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so pretty." And then a little creature that's just like practically some fish body built around a big ol' eyeball comes up, putting its eyeball right at the window, and he's like, "Hey there, little guy." And then the eyeball unfolds into actually teeth that look like an eyeball and opens up a little ring mouth to cling onto the window, and he just goes,
Yeah. I mean, that's like, if that doesn't sum up the ocean, what does? Life down there gets weird because the environment is so barren and hostile. You know, there's no sunlight. There's incredible crushing pressure that they, as biological beings, have to be able to survive.
At best, everything lives by only half of the rules we generally know to be necessary to support life.
Yeah, there's not really any real plant life down there because there's no sunlight. And whilst it is teeming with life, it is also vast and comparative to higher levels of the ocean, comparative to land, pretty barren because it's so harsh and hostile in the real depths of the ocean. So shit had to get creative with how it finds food. And that's the kind of and that kind of dark, hostile environment, which we know would crush us in seconds, breeds all kinds of different kinds of horror. There is a reason that Godzilla always surfaces from the ocean.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that, yeah. Godzilla probably is hanging out down there right now.
Because it's a well, I mean, because it's a lot more believable, this especially, like, the original Godzilla where no one knew what it was. No one was getting to see it. It was getting the Jaws treatment through a lot of it. It was this incredibly powerful alien entity, this a force of nature almost that no one understood. So, of course, it comes from the ocean and not stomping out of a forest. For one thing, it's massive, so where else would it hide, you know? There's a reason that so many of Lovecraft's horror stories use the ocean as a source of, like, where to find the eldritch, alien, incomprehensible horrors. His fish people that invade that town, the island where Cthulhu is, the underwater society where that door is. There's a reason he uses the ocean for that, because the ocean is alien. It is incomprehensible in so many ways, and Even now that we know so much more than we did decades ago, we still know nothing.
Yeah, if anything, the ocean became even more prevalent for that stuff because our the speed at which we learn to understand the ocean slowed way down, and the speed at which we learn to understand space sped way up. So now there's actually becoming a more and more of a gap in how much we understand the thing that's supposed to be alien and how much we understand the thing that's right here on the planet.
Yeah. So there is that kind of horror, right? The horror of the unknown is very baked into the ocean. This idea of anything could be down there. Horrible, like eldritch gods could be slumbering down there. Giant mutant iguanas could come stomping out of the ocean to radiation breath society into cinders.
And it seems like most of the things we learn about it raise more questions than they answer.
Yeah, maybe there is a society down there who is getting real tired of the oil leaks and shit.
Atlantis just sitting down there like, one of these days.
The Euro have a meeting, one of their like collectives, and they're just like, you know what? Actually, fuck you.
It's just we've had enough. Our advanced, amazing technology that totally didn't sink us into the ocean can only put up with so much waste management. But you know what it can do plenty of? War.
I mean, yeah, I mean, how many how often is it the kind of horror which is it of our own making in some way? Godzilla is a horror of our own making. The stories where the fish people rise up and come for us are often a horror of our own making, where our actions that have damaged this important part of the environment have led to the environment coming after us and be like, we know what, we're better off without you, actually. But that's the unknown horror isn't the only kind of horror the ocean can produce. The known horror is also very much an option.
Yeah, yeah, spooky.
Picture this, if you will. You are in a small submersible. You've departed away from the main vessel, and you're hundreds of miles below the ocean. No sunlight is reaching you. The only light you've got is your one like halogen bulb that could just barely stay illuminated and not crumble under the pressure. And then your radio signal to the main ship cuts off. Most of your lights dim and flicker and go out. You only have your emergency supply. You are trapped alone, hundreds of miles down. You can't pilot the thing anymore. You can't get up to the surface. And it's not like you can just escape this little claustrophobic coffin you found yourself in, because outside, from every direction, is so much pressure that you wouldn't have time to freeze to death. You would instantly be compressed into a little fleshy blob.
You are surrounded by not even one single particle of space or matter that would not simply kill you.
And then the next minute, your fucking light goes out. And the horror of the unknown's there too.
And even potentially, you could look out into the dark, finally realize you can see something through the window, only to realize that what you're looking at is an eye bigger than your window.
That is a terrifying and entirely possible scenario. And most of that isn't the factor of, "Oh god, what could be down there? It's so mysterious." It's the very real, tangible, concrete information we have already telling us that the ocean can and will kill us the minute we get too deep into it.
Yeah, we know for sure plenty of stuff that already is scary about the ocean before you even get into any of the mysteries we've yet to uncover.
Hell, even if you are on land, you are not necessarily safe from the ocean because sometimes the ocean comes to you.
Tidal waves are fun.
Rogue waves, tidal waves, tsunamis.
You know, when we hear the term earthquake, for the most part, what we think of is the ground quaking. You have to realize though how literal the word earth in earthquake is. It's the earth. Everything underneath, above, and touching it. That
Yeah.
means an earthquake really is an ocean quake too.
Earthquakes also not the only things that can cause tsunamis. Volcanic eruptions and landslides can do it too.
That's true. And every once in a while, even without that stuff is happening, if the conditions are just right, a wave just keeps moving. Nothing happens to stop it or break it if the current and the flow of the water stays just right along where it's going, and then it becomes the snowball effect.
Yeah, I mean then you get a rogue wave. Not as dangerous as a tsunami, no. But you want to get hit by one? No,
No, not if you're on land, not if you're in a boat.
it's definitely not if you're on a boat. Hell, even without subterranean forces involved and things like that, a bad enough storm, you get a storm surge and flood a place, and that is plenty deadly on its own. The ocean is simultaneously this wonderful thing and so important to our survival in ways even that we don't understand. It also really seems to want us dead a lot of the time.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily want to ascribe personality traits to the environment like that, but I mean, it's hard not to feel that way sometimes, especially when it's got good reasons to.
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect mesh, right? Way back in season 1 when I did the, cycle on horror, one of the things that I said was, like, the perfect horror scenario is a blend of the known and the unknown. It is understanding that there is a known dangerous factor that can kill you and probably will, but not knowing how it's going to do it or when it's going to do it. It's that blend of of knowing and not knowing that creates the perfect recipe for terror. And if that isn't the ocean in a nutshell, I don't know what is.
Yeah. How can simultaneously the most familiar bed of life in the entire world and potentially, at least according to like, to scientific stuff, very likely were the very, very first proto-organisms that eventually developed
Sorry.
into
So
us and
you just made me think of the ocean like personified, dude, sitting here going, "I gave you life, I'll take it away, damn it."
yeah, no, literally. This the same thing that potentially the the proto little bits that became everything else we're familiar with on here likely came from, according to a lot of science nowadays, is also just I mean, I don't know. I feel like nothing encapsulates the weird space and symmetry between being everything and being nothing as much as the ocean.
Maybe.
It is somehow simultaneously, in a way, a void, but also the densest possible cluster of just everything that there is.
Yeah, I mean, it says a lot that it's literally made of out of water, the thing we need the most to survive, but we can't drink it or we'll die.
Oh, you think you deserve this water? How about you go ahead and work for it?
Yeah. A lot of ways the ocean can be scary. Survival horror, check. Sci-fi alien horror, check. Regular creature horror, also check. We salute you, Jaws.
What a what a good and not at all made in bad faith movie that had such farther reaching impacts than the people who made it could have ever predicted.
To be fair, it was the book's fault before it was the movies.
True, 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 yes.
And at least the
I
movie
forget
was good.
sometimes there was a book.
Yeah, I tried to forget the book. The book was terrible.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's really bad. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like, not for a for a fairly short novel that's supposed to be about the fear of this shark lurking in the water and the local government's refusal to do anything about it. A lot of that story is about Brody's wife trying to bone the marine biologist.
Wow, that's cool. I'm really glad we didn't get lost in the plot.
I'm not even kidding. I think at least half of that book feels like it's more about the strain of their marriage and the affair with Hooper than it is about the actual shark, the
Well,
thing the book is supposed to be about.
Sometimes a book gets adapted because somebody looks at it and goes, "People who only engage in other mediums need to see this story." And sometimes a book gets adapted because someone looks at it and goes, "There needs to be a good version of this story."
Yep. And then, with every subsequent sequel to the movie, we got closer and closer back to the quality of the book.
So, few things on this earth had less reason to ever have a fucking sequel than Jaws. Like, for why? For who? Who wanted a sequel to Jaws?
Yeah, I mean, like the second one, like the second movie, it was okay. It wasn't bad. It was fine. The third one, it's sort of like, wow, this family is so unlucky that now that this one, the kid who's now fully grown and working at this marine park is having a shark problem again.
Yeah, I guess they just have the bloodline curse of shark.
Right, but at least that one, it just felt like this guy is the worst luck. And then the fourth one happens, and suddenly the bloodline curse is real. Can't remember her first name. Police guy Brody's wife is
Oh,
like
yeah.
someone dies in her family because of a massive shark again, so she flees to the Bahamas, and the shark follows her.
I'm just glad that for the most part now, people usually have a better understanding of and less fear of sharks because, like, even with how long ago Jaws was, still I grew up at least in a world where most people treated sharks like scary monsters.
I mean, they are in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, except for how unlikely they are to ever hurt anybody.
Yeah, that's the thing. They are like that because they're apex predators. They're not our apex predators. The only reason we ever are harmed by them is because we go into their backyard and expect them to not eat us.
And even then, most of the time when they do hurt us is it's either an accident or a misunderstanding because 'cause they're not interested in eating us.
Yeah, we're not on their menu. They don't know what we are, but they know what a seal is. They're looking for seals, and just sometimes they make a mistake, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I seem to have removed your leg."
It's an unfortunate coincidence that a wetsuit might as well be a seal suit,
And that the silhouette of a guy paddling on a surfboard is real similar from to a shark's eyes, yeah.
and we do tend to bark a lot and make unnecessary noises.
And splash, which creates those vibrations and
And
sometimes bleed.
splash. I I don't know, I'm really just thinking of 2 sharks floating under the surface now, watching a guy, like, paddling around and swimming around in a wetsuit and just, like, discussing the merits of whether that's a seal or not, like, pointing out the evidence that that's a seal one by one before one of them finally just takes a little bite and goes, "Oh, oh, that's not a seal. Ugh,
That's
ugh."
disgusting. What the fuck is that? Yeah, to quote a famed purple scholar, one Randy Feltface, "If you go into their bit, sometimes you get bit."
I like that, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's just, you know, don't blame the sharks. We're getting in their space. But I do wanna bring us back around to something, right? Because we actually on account of you, actually, we started this episode by talking about the beauty of the ocean, right?
I like
And
those.
yeah, that's something I actually want to kind of come back to because most of what we've talked about this episode have been very, as far as the emotion of it all, have been very powerful, very extreme emotions, right? And considering how potent and extreme emotions like wanderlust and fear are, stories about the ocean can also be very calming. Being being physically near the ocean or water in general or underwater can actually cause something called a blue mind state, right? Which is essentially this almost meditative sense of just calm and tranquility. And there is actually science behind this to back the idea up. It's not just like some hippie bullshit.
You dang hippies and your ocean love.
Research exists that indicates that living nearby the water has genuine positive effects on mental and even physical health. unless you get hit by a storm surge or a tsunami or something. I feel like that probably will change your perspective some. Other than that, though, like, it's calming and good for you. And strangely enough, engaging with stories about the ocean, even written stories with no pictures or anything like that, can also induce the blue mind state.
I believe it. I'm pretty sure I went into that mind state when reading one of my favorite books when I was younger. Not much to say about most of the story, but there's just a very big chunk of the book that just literally describes life on a big ship in detail while the characters are going where they're going, and the young men who are two of the main characters are learning how to live on and help manage the ship and work on it as sailors. Is just really nice. S Literally nothing happens during that part of the story except the story describing their life on the ship and learning how to sail, and it's just very nice and relaxing.
Yeah, like, just setting your story on or near the ocean, even if the water isn't playing a central part of the story at all, has an influence on the atmosphere of the story. Like, if you set something in a small, like, resort town kind of deal on a beautiful beach where the sun sets and reflects gorgeously on the ocean every night, where you are constantly like, everything is quiet except for the constant background noise of waves breaking along the beach, and the
Mm.
occasional sound of people laughing and screaming with joy as they fuck around in the sand or in the shallows.
Yeah, the ocean is it's such a universal source of beauty that it has also, as a result, become a symbol of beauty.
That Yeah, a setting like that creates a very calming, engrossing vibe that even if you would never want to live in that location realistically, there's a part of you that still goes, "Oh, wouldn't that be nice?"
What's not to love about the ocean when you only have to deal with the nicest part of it?
Yeah. And, even it's not just that sort of setting, like, if you describe living in Iceland in a small on a character living in Iceland in a small fishing village with a very simple way of life that is dependent on the ocean. The ocean giveth, the ocean taketh away. Even that creates a very specific vibe, the sense of this serene, pristine, beautiful world where even though things are harsh, they're simple and it's better that way. Even though most of us would not want to live that life.
Reminds me too also of I forget how exactly it goes, but the old little story about the fisherman that just goes out to fish the same route every day. And then the guy talks to him and is essentially being like, "Yeah, well, why don't you save up and try to buy another boat and then expand and blah blah blah, and in no time you could have like an empire or whatever." And the guy's like, "But why do I need any of that? I'm
What
just
would I do then?
I'm just fishing. What would I do after that? Just stop fishing? I don't want to."
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? That that putting like setting a story against a backdrop of the ocean can have this effect. It's a really interesting part of human psychology that really speaks to how deeply ingrained a respect for and love of the ocean actually is in the human mind, which is why maybe we should stop destroying it.
Yeah,
I would argue that we need stories that induce this state of thinking, this blue mind state, or stories even that make us fearful, stories that make us curious and fascinated. We need to keep telling stories about the ocean to remind those of us who live most of our lives on land how important it still is to us.
it's true. The ravages of everyday modern life make the ocean, at least for landlocked people, a more distant, and if not alien thing, like, I don't know, thoughtless thing than ever. It only gets easier and easier for many people to not think or not care about this massive, massive part of our world that whether we feel like we rely on it or not would make the world easily fall apart and potentially lead to us not being able to live our lives anymore if we ruin it.
Yeah, so this is specifically a message for you oil tycoons, the CEOs of tuna companies, etc., etc. There is a reason why you, even as someone who spends 99% of your time far away from the ocean in your office in a big city having nothing to do with it. There is a reason that even you, when you go to the beach, you become fucking Moana for a minute. There is a there is a primal deep connection in your very psyche. The ocean calls to you for a reason. Stop killing it.
Yeah. Can't you hear the sound of the sea?
Okay. Anyway, back to the fiction stuff. I mean, there's not much more to say on this. I mean, there's so much more to say when we get into our specific examples, I'm sure, whatever they may be. But I think just to wrap this up, I just want to once again remind you, the audience, that as far as stories are concerned, the ocean is vast and enigmatic. It is so many things to us, and as a result, so many different stories can be told using the ocean. Whether that is using the ocean as a backdrop just to create an atmosphere for the story, whether it's using it as a metaphor, whether the ocean is the savior or the threat in your story, it is this perfect built-in part of our real world that is just a churning mass of inspiration.
Yeah, and all great stories come from things in real life that make you think and make you feel. And few things have the power to inspire more thoughts and feelings than the ocean.
Yeah, could not have said it better. So on that note, we are gonna leave you guys there. If you are listening to this on YouTube or Spotify, you can of course also find these episodes on my site, radfordwrites.com. I also post blogs and articles and stuff like that there. You can read stories, including the ones I write for these episodes on there as well. Well, I just lost my train of thought the worst possible time.
Oh no.
And of course, you can also buy my books through the site as well, which helps support me and makes it possible for me to keep doing this more. You can also find John on Twitch and YouTube as Sephir, Sephear, where he streams things and is funny and sometimes even talks about the ocean.
I do like talking about the ocean from time to time. It's in
You're
a lot
locked
of
in, you
things.
have to stream Subnautica now.
You won't avoid it for oh wait, no, I don't know if I can mm.
Well, anyway, don't drown, don't kill the ocean. Goodbye.
Bye.